level with me. Does Dungeons & Dragons need to be an expensive hobby? It's undeniable. After watching some D&D actual plays, seeing their lighting and their camera rigs, their soundscapes, even their D&D essentials like their dice and DM screens, we all walk away thinking, well, why doesn't my session have that level of, for want of a better word, production? And production is the key word there. These actual plays have a crazy budget to make an environment that's suitable for their players and their campaign. So how can you run a nice campaign with just the stuff in your living room? That's what we're talking about today. But before we jump into the video, this table works on shared experience, so any tips, tricks, or thoughts on the subjects, leave them downstairs in the comments so you can dish out some XP to the players in our community. The cheapest way to run D&D is Theatre of the Mind. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next session. But I did that once, and I thought it was gonna be
super easy, barely an inconvenience.
That wasn't true. As a new DM, I found it hard to keep track of what the hell was going on. The descriptions of the locations became repetitive and vague, and because there was no map to look at, I found it really hard to gauge distances of how far the party were from enemies. So when they were asking what they could do in combat, I was like, firebolt. And it essentially became an indescript guessing game of dice rolling. It was quite difficult, actually. So for a new DM, what is actually essential, and how can you make that cheaper for them? First things first, maps. Even though I just joked about it, if you have a gooder brain than me, then Theatre of the Mind is generally the cheapest way to paint the picture of the battlefield. However, it does require your players to be able to follow your thinking and to be able to move characters themselves in their heads, meaning your descriptions have to be on point. So my suggestion is to actually make the maps yourself. Yeah, it could be time consuming, however, you get to decide the feel of the maps. You get to decide if you can plot special events that will change the environment. So whether that be combat based or something happens that changes the sociology of the scene. I use a program called Dungeon Draft, and it's a one-off payment of $20. Oh, that's 16 pounds for us bloody Brits. You can find third-party assets to install from places like, I literally use a website called cartography.assets.com. They are free, some of them. They are a bit of a pain to install, but it gives you a little bit more freedom to develop the map how you'd like and give it the correct feel suitable for the session. This is a map of a derelict church that I made on Dungeon Draft, complete with walking panels above the floor for sneaking in and out, and I use some free lighting assets and burning effect assets to make it from cartography.assets.com. Now, I know it's not the snazziest, but for a game with friends, this just works. It just works. $20, £16, and you have it for life. But also, there are so many talented map designers online running TTRPG-based Patreons that provide hundreds of maps for $5 a month. Back at the BBEG podcast, we used to get sent maps by Patreon creators for us to showcase. We'd then go and check out the Patreon that they wanted shouting out, and there's just a backlog of maps full with different environments and vibes for you to download immediately as you subscribe. Patreon is a fantastic source. Go and check it out and support a creator. However, the cheapest way is classic pen and paper. If you go to Ryman's, a stationery company in England, you can get a A3 pad that's squared for £12.99. You just get some markers and draw your own. However, if you want something a bit more eco-friendly, just invest in a big whiteboard. I mean, ideally, it would have squares on it so we can work out distance. However, you can just get a permanent marker. You have to commit to the permanent marker and draw your own squares. I think that's what I'm going to do next time I pick up a D&D campaign. Now that we've discussed maps, how do you work out where players are on them? Player tokens. I was very, very lucky to win these sleekly designed TTRPG tokens in a Christmas giveaway from Dungeon Tokens. Super simple to remember, check them out. However, there is not a lot of Christmas giveaways happening right now in September when I'm filming this video, so what else can we do about it? I mean, the obvious answer is TTRPG minis. However, they are expensive. it's very cool that it can showcase how you feel about your character, what they look like, and what their energy is to the other players on the table. But what happens when that character dies? The mini just goes on the shelf and it sits. Actually, I would like a mini of my character on my shelf, not gonna lie. But it's a lot of money for something you're only gonna use once. So how else can we represent players on a map? In my first campaign, I actually ordered a make-your-own Lego mini of my character, of my Tiefling Rogue. Yes, it cost a bit of money, but I knew I was gonna love D&D, so that's something I wanted to invest in. I'm now not playing that character, so I now just have a Lego minifig, and I don't even know where it is, actually. Where's my pencil case? It lives in my pencil case and I have no idea where it's gone. I must find that. The other players around the table, though, didn't want to invest in that. Luckily, our friend in DM lived with our other friend and YouTube content creator, Kellycopter. Kelly is massively into Lego, to the point she actually had Lego minifigs of all of us. She defaced her Lego for me. She just got a silver marker and painted in my eyebrow on a Lego head. It's very funny. But that's what my friends used as their minifigures. They didn't have to spend anything and they were readily available where we played our D&D sessions. I mean, it's a bit of a riddle, but you already have your player token. You just do. You're bringing it to every session. How often do you use your D100? I'm gonna guess not much. You can use your D100s as your player tokens because unless it's a weird coincidence that people have the same set of dice, they're all gonna be different. Super easy way to see who is what, match the D100 to the dice set, you know exactly who your players are. And for DMs, what I recommend when you want to represent D&D enemies or NPCs, just use your spare change. In England, there are 8 coins readily available, 9 if you include the lovely £5 coin. And what I suggest is, at least this works in my brain, is the bigger the value of the coin, the bigger and badder the baddie. So your goblins could be 1p's, your hobgoblins could be 2p's, and your orcs could be 5p's. You see where I'm going with this. The big bad would of course be the £2 coin. Of course, this varies nation to nation, but this is how I do it in England. Now we've just mentioned our dice sets, let's talk about dice. Dice can be expensive. My dice hoard is growing. I've been playing D&D for like a year and a half, just over now, and we're not telling my fiance how much money I spend on dice. We're not. Shh. But those physical dice aren't essential either. Generally, a basic dice set in the UK is going to set you back about $7.99 roughly, unless you want to take a risk on a mystery dice set, and I've seen some of them going for like £5.99 in certain places. However, they are not essential. I have seen plenty of apps that are able to roll D&D dice sets. The app I use is Mighty Dice. It is super simple to use. You can roll multiple dice at a time when you're doing big damage, and
it's free real estate.
But if you don't want to download another app, then you can literally roll D&D dice on Google. Free. Obviously, you want to set the tone correctly for your D&D session, and music is the simplest way to do that. You want ominous? Do you want combat? Do you want reminiscent? Do you want ads? Yeah, that's what I thought. Bloody ads. There are tons of music options on YouTube and Spotify, but you're gonna get constantly interrupted by ads again and again and again unless you want to pay those premium prices. But last year I was advertised this handy dandy little app called Pocket Bard. It offers music and sound effects for a manner of locations, environments, and vibes, whether that be combat, whether that be exploration or dungeon dwelling, even seafaring or space exploration music. Obviously, the music on YouTube is more varied. However, unless you're willing to pay £12 a month for YouTube Premium, then you're gonna get the adverts, maybe mid-roll adverts in the middle of these soundscapes. Pocket Bard is available on Android, iOS, and MacBook, so you can actually keep doing your notes while you spin the fantasy decks. Sidebar, when I'm editing these videos and finding sound effects, why for a 2-second sound effect am I given a 20-second unskippable ad on YouTube? Why? Stop that. Speaking of notes, to keep them secret from your players, you need a DM screen. My DM screen is not the fanciest in any way, shape or form. It's super simple. It has pockets on the inside and outside. On the outside is purely for aesthetics, for what my players can see. I can change those designs as and when I would like to suit the campaign or the session. On the inside, it has a list of mechanics to cover everything in D&D. It has got places to write your session notes and notes about your characters, and it even has a wipe clean initiative tracker for both friend and foe. Like me, it doesn't look the best, but it gets the job done. However, you don't need a DM screen to keep your roles and your notes secret. You could literally just use a binder. A binder. It's going to cost you, what, £1 in Staples for a folder? You can have plastic wallets that you can add and remove notes when you see fit. The only thing is it doesn't have an initiative tracker. However, we can sort that with a small whiteboard. And if the session contains a bigger combat, this whiteboard is double-sided. But you know what's cheaper than using a whiteboard? Just use Google Docs. Now, this is something that's going to divide opinion as to whether it's essential in the game or whether it's just a nice addition that's going to make, quite frankly, everyone happy. Props. Props are not essential. You can describe as a DM things being handed around from player to player or NPC to player, and yet giving your players a tea-stained bit of A4 paper for them to unscroll that gives them some devastating news to the party, yeah, their face lights up when you give them that. It immerses them in the scene and it gives them player agency because they get to decide when or if they release the information and what they do with the prop itself. One of the incredible uses I've seen for a prop, and if I can find a clip, I'll put it here, I've just not found it on YouTube in so long, is one player around the table casts Detect Magic, and the DM turns all the lights off and hands a player a UV pen. The DM had drawn on the terrain footsteps leading around, little highlights of magic. However, they took the time to color in an entire wall of terrain in this UV visible ink, just so they can go, it's an illusory wall. I thought that was so simple. Hand a pen, have a quick scout. But it was so cool to see, and the players really enjoyed that immersive aspect. But props and immersion don't have to be that intricate. A moment that I remember around my table revolving around a prop is that one of my players couldn't make a big session. It was a heist session. He was going to miss out on a load of fun. I felt really bad because this heist that I planned I was so proud of, and it was going to be something everyone could enjoy and roleplay around and essentially break my plans, break my linear storyline up with their bull, and he was going to miss that. And this player, quite frankly, loves bull. So I said, I'm going to make you a side quest. At the end of the side quest, after intercepting and killing a messenger, he finds a document hidden in the messenger's pouch. So, despite this just being over FaceTime, I made a prop for him and managed to slide it to him the next session he was in. This note essentially said that the heist is a setup by the Emperor's ex-captain of the guard, and they will be arrested on site afterwards. So, after the heist was all said and done, the player that couldn't attend turned up to the manor house with this important information. He decided to give this information to the players immediately, and the rest of the players sat reeling at the news. They debated for about 25 minutes whether they should avoid the meeting point entirely and head north into the mountains, or whether they should take the information they know, walk directly into this ambush with a plan, and take out the ex-captain of the guard. And you know what? I just sat back and watched them discuss it. It was so interesting the way this information came out. It caused their players to discuss the morality of what they were doing, and that's something I'd never seen around the table before. Because quite frankly, knowing the player, he's one of my best mates, he's one of my groomsmen, I could fully picture him keeping that information to himself, letting everyone, including himself, go to the meeting point and meeting with the ex-captain of the guard and being like, whoa guys, hold up. Shit. This is all a setup. Roll for initiative. I could have pictured that because he's the kind of chaotic good person I love. But the way it played out was so much better because it got the players talking in character about what is best for the party, what they were going to do next. Absolutely fantastic work from my player with that information. All because I gave him a little prop to reveal to the others as and when he chose to. And those are my cheap DMing tips and tricks. What money-saving tips do you have? Leave them in the comments below to dish out the XP to the players in our community, and I will see you in the next session. Thank you very much.